Welcome to Fool's Ball, where every briefcase has a sandwich. And as always, to the left of me, Chief Greengrass. To the right of me, Neckbeard. Welcome to Fool's Ball, guys. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about with the NFL draft, and we're going to start with me, Hype, and Greengrass were actually at the NFL draft. Sorry, Neckbeard, that you weren't there. We did send him pictures and hugs and kisses, but we're going to go and look real quick. Dave, what is your one takeaway from an NFL draft as I bring up these images of our glory?
It was an absolute blast. 200,000 people per day together talking trash. Nobody getting mad. It was just a whole lot of fun with a lot of football fans.
And I'm bringing up the poster first. You can see Tom Grassi in there. You can see the Mariachi Packer, and you can see the Golden who got taken, and is it Coral Sorrell that got taken in the fourth round?
Yeah, Sorrell.
Sorrell. In the fourth round, we're talking about a bunch today. Really cool guy. We got these cool pictures up here.
What's that Clay Matthews is holding? It doesn't look familiar.
Yeah, it says the Bears still suck there. And here's me and Dave right there. At in front of Lambeau Field. And then our first event we went to was the Fantasy Focus teams with Field Yates, Stefania Bell, and Daniel Dobb, and Liz and Mike Clay were super awesome. And that was a great experience, Dave. What was your big takeaway from meeting the Fantasy Focus crowd there?
They were all fantastic for the meet and greet, but it was really Daniel Dopp was the star. He was just warm, very approachable, very fun guy to talk to.
Yeah, there's a picture of Daniel Dobb, super, super cool guy. And then next up, after that, we took some cool pictures of them. They had a live show. And then we got Corey Benke from Cheesehead TV with a Carried the G beer. Him and Nagler had a get together. You can see Caden behind us. And Tom Grassi showed up, and Wes Hodquist in a bit. And Dave had to hang out with a lot of Packer fans once again. What an experience we had there. And I shot a bunch of content for them. And then the next morning, after we went to sleep, apparently these guys partied hard. And me and Dave were like, no, we're responsible because we had to wake up in the morning for a very important thing, and that's hanging out with Andy Agar. Okay, so I'm not going to say this was planned or not, but that's Andy Agar. She's all over socials. She's probably the #1 NFL content creator, influencer person, making comedy content. Super nice lady or girl, and really funny and fun. And we made some funny content with her. And then we walked around. We saw, all the different like big time people that pack a lorry in, all these like, great fans that are everywhere, 200,000 people. And then the NFL draft starts, and it's like boom. And there's Dave Greengrass right there, man. And what a cool picture of you, Dave. Dave, what was your takeaway from the actual draft experience there in the theater?
First night, I was a little sour about the Bears. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I was still a little RBF in that picture by the Chiefs pick later on, resting Bearface. It was a whole lot of fun with everybody, I gotta say.
Let's get another picture up here. We got Tom Grassi, and he had a big meetup, and there was kids from St. Jude there and all kinds of stuff. You could see the connection he has with the fans and everything. Super fun. And also the greatest part about all that is Dave, we got to sing Go Pack Go, and he said, and he's like, everybody's singing except for one guy, and he points at Dave. Good times. We got to hang out.
Get pointed out by the Green Bay Packer Fan of the Year. It was
the Fan of the Year, and we had a great time rubbing shoulders with all these great media people, and became BFFs with all these guys, and it's really fun. It's a great content community we have. Derek, once again, Mr. Neckbeard, sorry that you missed this, but there will be lots of fun ahead at Lambeau Field and other places for us to have. Now we have all these friends to hang out with and stuff, and which really reminds me of one thing, though. That's right. It's time for foosball and the NFL mock draft review. So Neckbeard is going to take over and run us through the real deal, the real stuff, the real dork stats of the NFL mock draft, who picked what, and then the results and how we feel about it afterwards. So how's it going, Neckbeard? How are you feeling about this new NFL draft we just had?
I'm pretty excited still. It was, to be honest, you guys being in Green Bay, I was a little sad I couldn't be there. I would have loved to seen Tom Grassi and Aaron Nagler and all these, creators that kind of inspired me for a long time. But I heard Green Bay did it upright, and I think they did decent in the draft. Some teams did, some teams didn't. This might be my favorite NFL day of the year is when the draft starts. So let's jump into it. Let's see how we did.
Let's bring it up, boys. We're gonna look at this beautiful NFL mock draft versus the NFL draft, and I'm putting us in the correct order. It went me, Chief Greengrass, and Neckbeard, and then we are gonna now, Neckbeard. Neckbeard, take us, not Derek, not him, Neckbeard, take us through. Take us through. Dude, going to the NFL draft is tiring. Everybody on the internet timeline is in bed sleeping, being like, I'm in a coma for 4 days. Okay, we're making content here.
Yeah. We're coming back. So what we're going to do, guys, is if you watched the first video, first of all, thank you for watching it. We really appreciate it, especially family and friends and everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to kind of go through the same process where we made our picks, 1, 2, 3 in a row. Obviously, there were some trades and things, but we're going to stick with the same teams, and we're going to kind of give our opinion on that pick. Do we like it? Would we have picked that guy if they were there in our draft? Did we do a terrible job in our draft? Not pointing at anybody, but yeah, we're going to kind of go through it one by one. Some of them are going to be obvious, like the first three. Obviously, everybody knew kind of what was going to happen, but there was a trade in there. So we're going to go through it and just kind of give you guys a quick review of how we did, how the NFL first round draft looks. And we're going to come out with another video on our actual draft review. I'm not going to say grades because we're going to do something a little different. We're all about being a little different here and not doing the same thing as everybody else. So, but this time we're just going to review our mock draft. So let's start with Cam Ward, number 1 to the Titans. Hype, what'd you think about it?
So we all kind of knew this was going to happen, but when he came out on the red carpet, Dave and I saw it, and it was just, you could just feel you can feel in a room when there's a certain energy, people are excited. Everyone just knew that you could tell the energy, the media, everyone knew he was going number 1. So when they announced him, not a surprise, and just mocking him number 1 to Tennessee, and the mock was like super easy to do. There's really no other person that could have been. But yeah, dude, easiest pick that you can get.
Yeah, we all knew it was happening. And Cam Ward, best of luck to him. I saw the video with him and Shedeur Sanders where Shedur's like, hey, let's make a song. And he's like, no, I play football. And I was like, oh, that's why he went number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I like that guy. I like a lot about that guy. So I wish him well in Tennessee. Now moving on to the biggest news of the day. And yeah, not Shedeur Sanders, but his teammate, Travis Hunter, the Jags, giving up tons of capital to get him. Chief Greengrass, you had the Jags and the Browns. Tell us what you think about that.
I absolutely love this pick. Like we said before, the Jacksonville coach, he went there. He wanted to have a little more say in the trades and whatnot. So he said no thank you till he got the GM booted. I think that gave him some of the leverage so that he could have the owner okay this trade, because that's an awful lot. Anytime that you give up a first this year, a second this year, a first next year, they swap force. It's great for both organizations. If you believe Trevor Lawrence is the guy, you got him a 1B to go with his 1A of Brian Thomas Jr. I think they're going to do a lot with Travis Hunter in the offense. So sprinkle in some defense, but I think that's going to be a big boost to their offense. And then when you're looking at the Browns, what they got, they were able to take that extra second round pick. They were able to get Quinshon Judkins. They've been looking for a stud running back to take over for Nick Chubb. I think they found it. They swapped force with them. With that 4th pick, they hit up Dylan Sampson, so they got some running back depth. They got that first next year, so they got 2 firsts. I love the trade for everybody involved. Should be a lot of fun for both fan bases. And the Browns also got Mason Graham to pair along with the baddest man on the planet at defensive end. So
yeah,
that was a lot of good for Cleveland.
Don't know if there's a lot of win-win trades in the draft. Like, this is a win-win. I think Jacksonville gets their franchise guy at wide receiver and cornerback, and they just needed something there, a little bit of juice, a little bit of electricity. And man, Travis brings that. I love it. And for the Browns, you get so much capital in return, and you still get Mason Graham. I mean, yeah, I like what both teams did. I thought it was great. It was an awesome way to start the draft with a trade right off the bat. Nobody expected. Fantastic. So that takes us through the Jaguars. Now on to Abdul Carter for the Giants. What can I say? We all knew it was going to happen. Great pick for the Giants. He called LT to try to get his number. That's a little much, Abdul, but I kind of like the swag, dude. I like the swag. So you got to be you if you're going to be good. So good job, Giants. Everybody knew this was going to happen. Let's pass over that. Let's go to the Patriots. Will Campbell goes to the Patriots hype. You had Mason Graham there. Why do you think they ultimately went offensive line instead of Mason Graham, Doug?
Well, you know, the thing that's crazy is Mason Graham went next in the draft, in the actual draft, so it wasn't too far off, right? And we all were kind of thinking it might be Will Campbell, but the thing is that the NFL draft was obsessed with defensive linemen. Like, I think it's like a record for most defensive linemen taken in the draft ever, especially in high rounds. And so we were all clued into that. Defensive lineman is the new meta, but you also need offensive linemen to counter that too. But yeah, that's why I picked Mason Graham there. And you can see that obviously the Browns really thought highly of him because they were willing to trade down and still take Mason Graham with Travis Hunter being there and those draft picks. So I feel pretty good about what I did, but there's also this idea that Mason Graham, because he was next to Grant, might not be quite as good as people think because he was next to another dominant defensive tackle. So who knows? Maybe the Patriots didn't think that Mason Graham was a dominant guy and they just needed offensive line.
And if you can get a franchise left tackle, you kind of have to take them unless there's like a franchise quarterback there, right? And the Patriots absolutely needed one. I loved Will Campbell's speech, how he would fight and die for him after. Like, that's the kind of guy that, screams Mike Vrabel to me. So it just made a lot of sense. I loved it. And and like you said, Mason Graham went next. Dave already kind of talked about that. And to your credit, Chief Greengrass, you said that they needed the B player or the 1.5 to their current wide receiver core, and the Jags went up and got it. So you picked receiver. You were right about the Jags, right? You got that one right. So congrats to you. Now let's go on to the most obvious one that I got wrong. Shedeur Sanders. I thought he was going to go here. I legitimately thought the Raiders were going to take him.
Just a bit outside.
I mean, I was only off by like 200 picks. I mean, that's that's not bad. But dude, everybody was off. I mean, I gotta be honest, guys, watching the draft, I'm so glad you guys got to go. I'm super jealous. Next time we're gonna do a trip to Green Bay. We're gonna all take great photos and have fun and hang out with Nags. But I think this shocked people so much that they just were talking about it on the shows. Like every single draft show was talking about it, filling the space. So I'm not going to talk about Shedeur Sanders right now. This is the first round. He didn't go here. I'm going to talk about Ashton Jeanty. I think he is the best running back in the draft. No questions asked. I really do like Amari Hampton, but Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders is a home run pick. I think they made the right decision ultimately. And let's move it on to the 7th pick, the New York Jets. Doug Hype, you had Will Campbell there, but they actually took Membu because Campbell was gone. So you got tackle right. What do you think about the pick?
Yeah, I mean, I was right there. And when we were there and I saw they picked Membu, I kind of looked at Dave and I was just thinking, like, yeah, I figured they'd take a tackle there because, dude, this is what we said all along. Justin Fields, not only does he need pass protection, but if they're going to kind of run with him and be a running team, you need offensive linemen more than anything. So I think everybody in the world was thinking that they might take a tackle here. Some people thought they might take the tight end to Penn State, but it shows once again that offense and defensive line were extremely like the meta of this draft.
Well, the Jets are interesting just because they have that dynamic duo between Breece Hall and the running back from Wisconsin, but they did surprisingly bad when you look at their average yards per carry and everything else.
I think
this really helped out their rushing game.
I don't think it was the offensive line. I think it might have been the play caller. But
the play caller.
That's just my 2 cents, Dave. Because history.
Former Packer.
I have no idea who it is. But all right. So good pick by the Jets. Yeah, good job, Hype, calling tackle. Obviously, was Will Campbell was there in our draft. You'd have taken him there. Now Tet went to the Panthers. He was already gone in our draft. Dave took Jahad Campbell. But do you like the pick of Tet there for the Panthers, Chief Greengrass?
I absolutely love this pick. I wasn't sure if they were going to do it just because they took a wide receiver so high last year.
Right.
I think it was at the 2.33. But I love this pick. At the second half of last year, they saw the line gel. They saw the quarterback step up. This is just going to be a really big feather to help out with the development for Bryce Young, and I think this is a fantastic play. Defense still has holes. This is a deep defensive draft. Fix it. Get him an alpha wide receiver. I love this pick.
Very good. Yeah, I like that pick too. I was really happy to see Carolina get some weapons. They definitely need them. All right, moving on to the Saints. They took Kelvin Banks. Obviously, I traded down. I made a Cowboys trade. That didn't happen. But I did have tackle. I had Membu going there. They ended up taking Kelvin Banks. I think Kelvin Banks was a top 10 guy for a long time. Then he kind of started to fall because of the injury. But I think the Saints ultimately saw the talent there, and I got no problem with their pick. I love them taking the tackle. That's what I wanted them to take. I assumed they were going to take that tackle. Kelvin Banks can play left tackle, play right tackle. He's a very good player. And yeah, they're going to find a place to put him. I love that pick. Now let's move on to my favorite pick of the draft.
Yes.
Yeah, not Tyler Warren and the Chicago Bears. Not
Bears.
Tyler Warren. What do you think, Hype?
So I was standing next to Dave when they made this pick, and Dave was so convinced that they were going to take the Penn State tight end Tyler Warren that when they said Colston Loveland, he's just cheered and he said, "Yes, we have the next Mike Ditka." He thought it was the Warren. He thought there's no way that they would ever take the other guy. That even when he heard the name, he didn't even like register with him, right? And he's accelerating. I'm like, Dave, you realize it's the other tight end, right? And he's like, what? And rage in his face turned red and rage went all over his face, and he looked like he was about to just start picking people. Like the meta the last couple of days on social media has been like, can 100 men take on one like silverback gorilla? That is what was about to happen. It was about to be a bear, not a gorilla, but a bear, a giant bear, a guy who's like, what are you, like 6'5", Dave? And and a big dude just ready towering over everybody, just ready to. That's what it felt like there. And then and we turned from laughing for a minute to just being like, oh no, Dave, this is a serious.
I was laughing from home. I was laughing from home, knowing how mad Dave was, not even being there. I knew
you knew
you were mad.
Like,
I just knew it. I could feel it. Like, this dude is not.
He's about to explode.
Dude.
And so Dave,
when we had Bears fans walking by us for the rest of that night, they'd see me and they just looked like they got kicked in below the stomach. It was
all right. Yeah. So Hype, though, you actually really like Colston Loveland. You were a lot higher on him than I was. I thought he should have been a late first round pick at best. That's my personal opinion. But he goes 10. You were kind of high on him, Hype. Do you actually like this pick for the Bears? It's still a tight end. What do you think?
Yeah, so the thing is that this is a very Bears pick because they're thinking, with the new coordinator from the Lions, they want to have the next, Travis Kelce or something, right? And all this stuff. And that's cool and great and everything. That's a finesse offense. You need to have a quarterback that can really be amazing for that tight end to pop off, because there's a lot of places where there's finesse tight ends and it doesn't really work out that well. I feel like that the tight end for Penn State would have been a more solid pick there because you could have him protect your quarterback more. I would have picked him for sure, but I don't think it's a bad pick. Dave, you did mention that people seem to be wanting to trade it from him. I saw a lot of people in their mock drafts have him go around this area. And it was kind of shocking to me, but I think everything in NFL is a meta. They're trying to copy Travis Kelce. They're trying to copy the Chiefs. It's a copycat league. So that's probably pushed Loveland way higher than I think he normally would go in this draft. What do you think, Dave? You think that Loveland got pushed up a little bit just because they think he's the next Kelce?
Well, Tom Pelissero, I think, was the one who he released it. It sounded like there are a lot of teams that were trying to trade up in the draft, but once Loveland went off the board, all of the communication stopped.
Interesting.
So nobody would say who everyone was trying to trade up for, but it sounds like, the Broncos and some of the other teams, the other guy is nice, but if you needed a weapon, it seemed like this was the guy. And I heard a really great story on the CHGO Bears podcast today. They interviewed Colston Loveland's high school coach, and his junior year, they get to the conference championship game. It goes to overtime. The other team scores a touchdown, kicks the extra point. He goes, "Coach, run the ball behind me every play." So you have your star tight end. He doesn't want the ball. He says, "Coach, just run it by me." They ran 3 running plays right behind him. They got the touchdown. They ran it by him. They got the 2-point conversion. They won the game. So you hear that, and it's just like, okay, this man is a dog. He does have some of that. Let's go get it. He's about the team. So once I heard that, I'm starting to feel a whole lot better about just the team first attitude, the work ethic. You know,
Also, we have to give a shout out to the Bears media and all the podcasters because they do a great job of winning the offseason and claiming that anything they do is the greatest thing that's ever existed. So
100%. And hey, his nickname's Lovey, which we all know works in Chicago, right?
there you go. He actually is already in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
like
but it works. So
Deion Sanders' kids in the College Football Hall of Fame. Loveland's already in the NFL Hall of Fame. He's already
the Bears getting a tight end in the offseason is like people breathing. It's just going to happen. So, all right, move on to the San Francisco 49ers and Chief Greengrass pick. Mikael Williams goes way higher in this draft than where we had him, where a lot of people had him. So, there were some drafts that had him in the teens and whatnot, but not a lot of people mocking him to the Niners. How do you feel about that pick, Chief Greengrass?
Well, we knew that defensive line would be a point of emphasis. It was just, what do they want to get Joey Bosa help, in the middle or on the opposite ends? I think it makes a lot of sense. He's quick. He's disruptive. They just need to get pressure on the quarterback quick, and I think Mikael Williams will be a nice compliment.
Yeah, I don't mind the pick. I definitely think they reached, but based on what you guys are saying, the phone calls are stopping. Nobody's trading back, which I'm going to get to with the Cowboys in a minute. I don't mind the pick. I think Walter Nolan would have been a better pick, honestly. I think your pick of Walter Nolan would have been a much better pick for the 49ers. But, hey, he's a defensive lineman. They still kind of went the same direction. Maybe they were looking for more edge talent, so not a bad pick. Now let's go to the Cowboys. Now, I had them trading up, just thought they might do something crazy, and they did. Instead of trying to get a player that was in the top 10, they tried to get a player that was in the top 40, and they took Tyler Booker, who is a fantastic guard, by the way. This is nothing against Tyler Booker, but he's probably the 40th or 50th best player in this draft. And taking him at 12, I think the Cowboys were hoping to trade down. They never got a call, and they said, you know what, we're just going to take our guy because that's who we want. And I think the player is great for them. I think he's perfect for their system, but there's just way too much talent on the board that they missed out on. And, I don't dislike the player. Again, I think he's a perfect fit for their offensive line. I just think that they missed a lot of talent taking him at 12. All right, let's move on to the Dolphins. Kenneth Grant, nose tackle going to the Dolphins. Kenneth Grant, again, I was really high on him too. A lot of people said he was the motor in Michigan because he was getting double teamed, so Mason Graham could get single teamed to make plays. The Dolphins probably saw that tape. They got their nose tackle. Doug Hype, how do you feel about Kenneth Grant to the Dolphins?
Well, the real story here is Will Johnson is who I put in my mock draft, but he fell big time, and apparently, without us knowing, his injury must be a lot worse than we know. So, or something must be going on because he dropped so far. So, nobody had him dropping way far in the draft. We kept watching, even the Packers, second round pick. We thought for sure they got to pick Will Johnson. There's no way you pass him up. And everyone was shocked. All the people broadcasting were shocked. So, there's definitely something going on with him. But Kenneth Grant, Derek, is a very good point that you bring up because I think not only is defensive line we see really the meta of this draft, but the scouts really do watch the tape and look for intangibles beyond what's obvious, and probably thought Kenneth Grant was probably the anchor of that line and might actually be better than we think. So it looks like the Dolphins did their homework. But they still didn't take a corner, which they could have. There's still some good corners there.
Right.
I don't know, man. It's like everybody sent out a memo and said, just draft defensive linemen this year.
Well, you guys saw the Super Bowl. You said it before. It's a copycat league. The interior defensive of the line won that Super Bowl. They dominated the Chiefs.
They're copying the Eagles 100%.
Yeah, everyone's copying the Eagles. And we'll get to this in our grades video, or in our grades video, where I think so many teams took big guards in this draft, including the Packers, in places that nobody expected because they want to stop the Eagles because they saw how dominant they were, right? And I think that's a big reason why the Cowboys did what they did. They're in the same division. If anybody can stop them, Tyler Booker can because he is an absolute beast, right?
Him against Jalen Carter is going to be fun.
Yep. And then Kenneth Grant on the opposite side kind of gives you that same thing Jalen Carter does. He's big. He's 340. He just pushes people around. He can take on double teams. So, yeah, I love what the Dolphins did there. I honestly think it makes a lot of sense. And like you said, with Will Johnson's injury, him falling to the second is a shocker. That knee must be more of a concern. So, obviously, nobody knew that. So, here we are. Moving on to the Colts, probably the most obvious pick in the draft, other than the Bears. How'd you feel about that one, Chief Progress?
Well, I think they already had 3 weapons there. I think this wasn't the best pick for the player. I don't think it's necessarily helping out the teams, but it really helps out. It really helps out the quarterback that they're going to draft next year.
Yeah, I'll
So,
agree
you know,
with
I wanted to get the backbone. I wanted them to get a safety.
Yeah.
I don't really think you can put 4 starting caliber wide receivers out there in Indianapolis. They're not going to get thrown to. I just don't. I've watched enough of their quarterbacks. I don't have faith in either one of them, unfortunately. So, Tyler Warren, he can. On the bright side, tight ends they don't break out really hard until like year 3, year 4. So that'll be his second year with this new quarterback that they're going to get next year. Bright future for him, just not this year.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I like the pick. I think it was pretty obvious the Colts want a tight end. I kind of agree with you. They have too many weapons, but at the same time, like if you have a quarterback that you're trying to develop, you want to give him as much as possible. Hence, the Bears taking all these offensive weapons too. It just kind of makes sense. So let's move on to the Falcons.
Our guy might actually complete some stuff.
I mean, you guys do have very good offensive coordinators, so maybe, but we'll see. Jalen Walker to the Falcons. I love this pick. I actually considered him here when I took Ezeraku in our mock draft. Ezeraku fell to second, as did Mike Green, which I think surprised a lot of people because I had Mike Green go in the Seahawks a little bit later. But I love the Jalen Walker pick. I especially, and we'll get to this later when they traded up. We'll talk about that. But really good pick here. Exactly what the Falcons need. They've needed a pass rusher forever. Pretty cut and dry here. And then let's move on to the Cardinals. Now, we had Walter Nolan going to the 49ers. He drops a little bit to the Cardinals. They don't trade back in our mock draft. They traded back for a receiver, but with Walter Nolan there, they take him. Doug Hype, how do you feel about the Walter Nolan pick?
So, yeah, there's all this trading around here. The Cardinals and Tampa Bay, right? And so Walter Nolan, I think that is a pretty good pick for them. Now,
the Cardinals are always a hard team to judge in the draft because they need like 14 positions. So like it's like they almost can't miss, but is it the best player for them? Do you think there's another player that would have worked better for them? Do you think
this is the thing is that there's all these playmakers out there, and as much as I love defensive linemen and stuff and offensive linemen, there's all these playmakers, wide receivers, and cornerbacks out there that are pretty dang talented and good.
Yeah.
But I think everyone bought into this thing of like you get the defensive line. Like literally, I've never seen more of a copycat in my life. Walter Nolan went from like a 3rd round pick to like being pick 16 in the draft in a period of like what 3 weeks or something like that.
It was like 2 months, but yeah.
And I don't know if he can defend the run that well. He seems to be more of like
pretty good against the run,
a pass rusher.
Yeah. He's good at both.
He's solid against the run. He's great against the pass rush.
Yeah, he's a really good pass rusher and a decent run defender.
I've just heard reports that said like if he's double teamed or whatever, it might be trouble for him. He's just not like the strongest guy. But
he's next to Calais Campbell, so that'll help with some of that.
That I really wanted them to get a wide receiver or cornerback because they already have some like dynamite talent there. But if you have one good receiver and everyone else is meh, you can just double team that guy. But and your quarterback's gonna be running for his life all day. So I was thinking Burden or Golden or somebody there. The thing is, like, when these picks started happening, like they took Nolan and some other picks later, that's literally my brain started thinking like all the corners and wide receivers are dropping. Oh my God. Like,
dude, it's apparent that guards and defensive tackles were a lot higher valued by the NFL than what we had them valued at. And it shows in the next 2 picks. So, hey, congratulations to Dave. Other than the top picks in the draft, this might be the only one we got exactly right. Shamar Stewart to the Bengals. Great job, Chief Greengrass. You obviously like the pick because you made it for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's big, he's bad. They need help with Hendrickson. I think all in all, it makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Easy. Yep. Great job, Chief Greengrass. Now on to the Seahawks is able. Now I have the Seahawks taking a edge rusher and Mike Green, but this is exactly what we're talking about. Big, chunky guys in the middle. They take a center/guard combo that we had going around 31. That's been moving up draft boards as well. They definitely take them too high, but if that's what you want, that's the kind of the theme of this draft is take the big guys. I don't mind the pick. They obviously need a guard and a center, and he can play both, and he can play tackle. So they took their guy, and they didn't care where he was ranked. And, I like it. And I don't think anybody was going to trade up at these spots, right? Because cornerbacks, edge rushers, and wide receivers are still there. There's no reason for other teams to trade up. So Seattle takes their guy. And let's move on to the Bucks. Now, this surprised me, I think, more than anything else. I think the Bucks taking wide receiver. I get it. Mike, he's getting older. There's
This
been
shocked me, though.
injuries. Yeah, this one really surprised me. So, Hype, how do you feel about the Buccaneers taking Ibuka here?
There was a lot of crazy magic astrology or something in the air. I don't know, dude. There's like some mysticism about the NFL. But that morning, Andy Agar, when we ran into her, my question to her was, so the obvious one, who are the Packers? Who's your person for the Packers? And she said she wanted Mbuka. Like she really did. Like she thinks she grew up like, Chicago, Detroit area where she's around the Michigan, Ohio State rivalry. So she probably knew him really well, was around him a lot, saw him play a lot. But she was emphatic that she was really into this dude. And when the Buccaneers took him, my immediate reaction is like, the Packers are getting golden. Like there's some magic in the air. Something's happening, and Andy Agar's part of it. And all this is everything in the universe is just creating this thing to happen. And so when they took Mbuka, I was like, it kind of makes sense, but they could have taken like edge or D line and all this other stuff. And it's in my head, it was just like God had said, I'm gonna just tell these people in the draft to do everything they can to make the number one receiver in the draft drop to the Packers. Yeah. That's all I could think in my head. I was shocked. I was like, this is something that's happening. Like we're going to get the number one receiver. So, and Mbuka going to the Tampa Bay is good, obviously, because they need the offense with their quarterback to be dynamic and have a lot of guys making plays so they can score 40 points if they need to. And that makes them scary. So it's kind of a genius move that we never thought of, I think. For them to take the next step on offense, just to basically, have a 5,000 yard passing offense this year.
I think this pick affected the next pick because I think Denver. I mean, I can't believe Jahadae Barron made it to Denver. I still think the Bucs should have taken Jahadae Barron. They desperately need a cornerback, but they zigged when everybody else is zagging, so maybe that's part of their idea. But yeah, so Jahadae Barron to Denver, no fly zone 2.0 up there in Denver. They're trying to build that defense to stop Patrick Mahomes, no question about it. Chief, what do you think about the Jahadae Barron pick to the Broncos?
I was dumbfounded. Everyone in their cousin had a Marion Hampton going here. Yeah. I absolutely love it. They had a stellar defense, and they're just locking it down that much more. They have a very nasty tandem now. They have, it's just all three levels are going to be locked in. It takes a lot of pressure off of their young quarterback, so he doesn't have to score too much. You score 20 points a game, we're going to win. It's pretty much all he had to do last year, and it's just like, we'll get you some weapons later, but I think, I'm a Bears fan. I love defense. I don't care for offense. This was a super sexy pick to me. I didn't see it coming, but when they did, I'm like, wow, I love this.
Me too. I think they were surprised he got there, to be honest, right? And so when he's there, they're like, okay, do we take a running back? There's 8 other running backs we can get in this draft, or do we take potentially the best cornerback in this draft? And they took the best cornerback. And I kind of like it when teams just focus on one side of the ball and like, we're going to be so awesome on this side of the ball, you're going to be terrified to play us. So love this pick by Denver. I was shocked when it first happened too, but the more and more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, what an awesome pick by the Denver Broncos. Moving on to the Steelers, who I called were not going to take a quarterback. I knew they weren't going to take quarterback. Well, they did take Will Howard in like the friggin' 6th round or something, but I knew they weren't going to take a quarterback. I love Derek Carman. We mocked him to the Packers. I love that pick that you made to the Packers, Chief Greengrass. I love this pick for the Steelers because he can play on both sides. He's a disruptor. He pushes people around. He's really strong for his size and agility. He seems like a Steeler. He really does. He feels like a Steeler, and in that just prototypical Steeler 3-4 defense. I absolutely love this pick. I think it's a no-brainer. I think a lot of people didn't like it because they should have taken Shedeur. No way, man. This guy's a Steeler. It makes total sense to me. Love the pick by the Steelers here. I had them trading down and taking a safety, but they stay put and take Derek Harmon, which I love. All right, moving on to the San Diego Chargers. Just kidding. I did that last time. The Los Angeles Chargers taking Omarion Hampton. And guys, now there's rumors that the Chargers were getting calls during the draft to have somebody trade up, right? And everybody thought it was going to be for Shedeur. And they ultimately made the pick. But I don't know if you guys noticed when you were there, the clock on the Chargers went all the way down to 0 before the pick was in, because they were thinking about seriously making this trade. And it was actually the Eagles calling, because they wanted to get up and get Jahad Campbell at that position with the Chargers. But the Chargers ultimately said no. And the Eagles got their guy too. We'll get into that later. But Omarion Hampton to the Chargers. Hype, how do you feel about this pick with Mr. Harbaugh?
It's a really smart move because people forget Harbaugh likes running the ball, like with Michigan and all this stuff in his history and 49ers. He needs to have a strong running game. I think he wants to turn the Chargers into Michigan 49ers 2.0 with strong defense and a running game. Their passing offense and their quarterback's not super reliable. He just is not he's not gonna be winning championships and games for you just on his own accord. So I think they're going hardcore in the running game here, and it's just really smart move because like if we're going old school and battling in the line of scrimmages again in the NFL, and if you have a running back, Omarion Hampton, like he's a great counter to a team with a good defensive line because he can hit that line so fast. His quickness is almost jaunty level when he gets the ball to when he's past the line of scrimmage in the second level. And you need to have that in NFL, as we learned from like other big running backs like AJ Dillon that didn't work out so well because he couldn't do that. So I think it's a genius move on the Chargers' part. I feel like a lot of teams made these decisions that were really smart, but nobody saw it coming.
I love this pick. I mean, he screams Harbaugh. He's an old school hit you in the mouth kind of running back, right? I mean, if Omarion was there in our draft, I'm sure you would have taken him because it just makes too much sense. And ultimately, you know, the Chargers might have gotten another first-round pick or a second-round pick to trade back with the Eagles. It's possible. We don't know what the package was, but they like this guy enough that they stayed. I love the pick. It makes a lot of sense. Now, let's move on to the smartest team in the first round, the Green Bay Packers. Chief Greengrass, how do you feel about the historic 23-year drought coming to an end for the Green Bay Packers?
Welcome to the golden age for love.
Yep. That was
as soon as this pick came on, though, everybody around us who saw me bear down when the Bears made their pick right away, they pulled out their phone to get my reaction. And all I could say is this just ain't fair. As soon as, like Dougie said, as soon as we saw Igbokwe go to Tampa Bay, I'm like, oh God, Golden's going to go to Green Bay. They find, you know, and I didn't do any, I thought he was good. I thought that he'd just be gone, you know, by Dallas earlier on. He's 4.29. Watched him on Steve Smith covered him or did his analysis for him. And he says he's 4.29, but he doesn't look like it on the field because his quarterback can't get it down there fast enough for him.
Right.
He's just too quick. So now you got Jordan Love. Now he's got a cannon. Now it's going to help to spread out the offense. You're not just going to have a bunch of shallow guys. I think it was a fantastic pick.
I love it. So the reaction I heard was amazing at the draft. Hype, tell me a little bit about what you saw when Golden got picked by the Packers.
It was kind of what I expected. As soon as I saw Igbokwe get taken, I was like, oh no, is Golden going to drop to us? And as the picks were coming in, previous to the Packers, we were asking people, we're in chats, everyone's going whatever. And I was the person out of everybody that's like, they're taking Golden. Like, I just knew it. Like, I'm just like, and I'm watching the other guys go off the board, them taking Harmon, them taking Hampton and stuff. And I'm just like, bro, like, because it's karma coming back from not taking a wide receiver forever and all this stuff happened in the draft is just going heavy defensive line. I'm like, it just literally was so perfect. The crowd went nuts. He came out and he said, we're drafting a wide receiver. And I already knew it. Like I would have bet every penny I own $1 million that he was going to say that. And then the crowd did not pop that big. I think they all kind of knew that too. I think they all, everybody kind of knew that. So they popped a little bit. But then when he said they're waiting to make sure that they're picking the right wide receiver. They're like, are they going to pick Golden? No. And then he said it and it popped hard. People said it was the biggest crowd pop in history they've ever heard. The last time they heard something that big was when The Rock and Stone Cold went at it and Stone Cold came out and beat his ass. I've heard that like literally from a person at the draft.
Wow.
And from like other podcasters and stuff. And you can kind of hear it on TV and stuff too. But 200,000 people just at once going like, oh, hell yeah, is basically what you heard. And then just party mode started. Everybody was just like so happy. They just couldn't be happier. It's almost like they didn't even have to say anything.
Not Chief Greengrass.
No.
But you know what? Hey, props to Dave and all the other Bears fans there who duked it out with Packers fans, you know, in our traditional like talking crap but being nice to each other style.
All right, everyone agreed. At least you're not a Vikings fan.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, Paul Farrington show, poor guys. But we'll get to them now. So speaking of reactions, I love the Paul Farrington show. Watch it all the time. I watched their reaction to the Donovan Jackson pick, and I felt almost as bad for them as they felt for themselves. They were mad. I hate this pick. I just think it's awful. I think there's so many guys that could have helped the Vikings here. I was absolutely terrified they were going to take Malachi Starks because that guy is a baller. And they need a safety. And their safeties are friggin' 50 years old, and they're taking a guard. Oh, man, what a terrible decision. I'm sorry. I hate this pick, and it made me very, very happy.
You played DB, didn't you?
Yeah, I played safety. So safety's important. Okay.
It's important. It's like we got to thank the Eagles for this.
You got a young quarterback. You want him to be safe. You know, you got the 2 tackles right there. You went out, you got a center, you got a guard from the Colts to help solidify it. You still had that one gap, and you found the best guard that was out there on the board.
All right.
You already got the wide receivers. You got the wide receivers, you got the tight end, you got the running backs. All you need is that guard for that young quarterback.
There's enough of you 6'5" fuckers in this draft already. Okay. A safety needed to go here. And the Vikings should have taken Malachi Starks. I'm going to say that until the day I die. Malachi Starks is going to be an absolute juggernaut in this league, especially now that he's on the Baltimore Ravens. Holy crap. So thank you, Vikings, for screwing up that pick. Love every second of it. What a bunch of idiots. All right. Now,
they're going to get 200. They're going to run for 250 on you this year.
Yeah.
Man.
Dude, well, maybe. I hope not. And again, I think Donovan Jackson's a very good player. I really do. I think he's a good player. And again, it's taking the big body guys way higher than they should have. But
he played left tackle in the championship game, right?
I mean, if you watch those Vikings-Lions game, if you watch the Vikings playoff game, they desperately needed help in the secondary. And Starks was right there. He was right there. So were edge rushers. But hey, let's move on.
What happened to Sam Darnold? They couldn't stop the interior rush.
Yeah, fair enough.
You need to solidify that. You got a young quarterback. You got to stop that interior rush.
There's plenty of other guards. We're going to argue about this later.
No, there's plenty of guards, but there's few great guards. This guy was able to play left tackle when they needed him in the college playoffs. He got him to the championship game. He did awesome going against stellar defensive players. So I like this pick.
Hey, good player. Terrible pick. Terrible. All right, moving on to the Giants. Trading up. Now, we called a Browns trade. We called the Jackson Dart trade, but we did it with the Browns, and we had them trading with who did we have them trading with? I don't even remember.
The Washington
Commanders. So we had them trading in Washington. They went a little sooner than that. They trade for Jackson Dart. Again, I don't think a whole lot of Jackson Dart. I think he has potential, but I do think the Giants is a good spot for him, better than the Browns, because he's absolutely going to sit this year. He needs to sit this year. He needs to learn how to read NFL defenses and run NFL offenses, not that old Miss crap that's being run down there. So I actually really like this pick for the Giants. I think this is a much better landing spot for Jackson Dart himself. I still don't know what he's going to be, but I think this situation is one of the best situations he could have gotten into in this draft. So I do like the pick by the Giants. Good job. Now, another trade happened right after that, which nobody expected. Atlanta was not messing around. They're like, we got one edge rusher. We need two. We're getting a second one. They get a haul, okay, or they give a first-round pickup to or wait, did they give a first? I need to double-check.
To the Rams.
Yeah. So they gave it to the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams got the 246.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got the 7th round pick, and they got a 26 first, which is huge.
So they got next year's first, right? Exactly.
Yes.
So great job, Rams. I obviously, if you're at the end of the first round and anybody offers you a 2 and a first next year, you eat that up and you run. You run immediately. But I love this because Atlanta has needed an edge rusher, and they're like, we got one, let's get 2, let's go all in. They did it last year when they took a quarterback when nobody expected it. I'm loving their GM right now. Be aggressive, make this team better. Atlanta has for so many years been almost there and then terrible and then almost there and then terrible. It's like, hey, you got to try to hit home runs. You got to do something to change it up. I love this pick. I actually love it because I know why they did this, because the Ravens were sitting there ready to take James Pierce. I called it in my draft. I knew they were going to take him. And the Falcons were like, nope, we're going to jump the Ravens. We're going to take James Pierce. Love it. Now, what happens then? Baltimore picks next, and they're like, oh, you want to give us a future Hall of Famer at safety? Okay, I guess we'll take him. So they take one of the best players in this draft, a top 10 talent, the best safety in the draft, the leader of the Georgia defense, who gets to play next to Hamilton, maybe the best safety in the NFL right now, or at least close to it. Respect to Xavier McKinney, who I think is the best right now, but one of the top 3 safeties in the NFL. Now Malachi Starks gets to play next to him. I'm really excited to see what he does next year. He's going to be unbelievable. I love this pick by the Ravens. I mean, it took care of itself. The Ravens are sitting there. They could use a safety. The best top 10 guy safety in the draft goes to them. Great job, Ravens. Great job, Falcons. Nice job, Giants. Yeah, I talked a lot. Those were all my teams because of the trade. So let's move on to Detroit. And we'll go with Tyleik Williams. Went a little early. How you feel about that, Doug Hype?
Yeah, the Lions, man. The Lions have become like really annoying, and now the defensive tackle run kept going, and I thought they were going to go somewhere else. I thought they're going to go with edge, but they got a defensive tackle, so and he kind of went higher than they expected. I thought Tyleik Williams was maybe like a second rounder here. So people are overall not really super happy with the Lions draft. I thought they could have gotten like, a linebacker, a corner, anything, a defensive edge here. Green was still there. A lot of people were still there. Yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those weird things where like it might turn out to be good, but I don't really think the Lions like really needed Tyleik Williams that well. And I just don't think like the Lions did not get a very good grade from most people in their draft. I had them taking Tyleik Williams. I had them taking Mekhi Williams, an edge from Georgia, but he was gone.
Yeah, he was gone
in the draft already. Yeah. And Mike Green was there. And so maybe there was maybe there's edges they just didn't like. Maybe they had them way lower on their board. So, but like the defensive men just continued.
Do they ever care what anyone else thinks?
They don't.
Every year they draft poorly and they just get better.
Dude.
They got a 334-pound defensive tackle that's gotten 100 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, and 5.5 sacks over the last 2 years. He's a disruptor. He's going to be fantastic for Aiden Hutchinson right there. I get that you want to have the edge on the other side, but this guy will eat up double team. So you put him on the tackle right next to Hutchinson. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. Only the Bears be successful against them this year.
Yeah, you wish. Now, this does follow the narrative. This is the big boy narrative again. They took another big boy before we thought he would go. Everybody was doing it. It's kind of the way the NFL's going right now. It's a big boy league now, right? It's they want the big boys. Tyleik Williams is a big boy. He pushes people around. He's a monster. You cannot judge interior defensive linemen by stats. Some of them, not everyone's going to be Aaron Donald. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So guys that can take on 2 blockers and hold their position are just as valuable as edge rushers, right? And you got to have that guy. Kenny Clark does that for the Packers. That's what they want in Detroit. Those guys are valuable. They don't always show up on the stat sheet. I like to pick Tyleik Williams. Again, the Lions are going to do whatever the hell they want. And people are going to say they got a C, they got an A+, they got a B. Again, you can say whatever you want. The Lions don't care. They took this guy. He's a very lionish pick. I actually kind of like it. All right, moving on to another big body, going up to the Washington Commanders, who we had trading out, so we didn't pick for them, so we can't be wrong. But we had them trading out of the draft with the Browns to get Jackson Dart, but they take a left tackle here. Chief Greengrass, how do you feel about the pick of Josh Connerly Jr. here?
I heard a lot of people say that him and Josh Simmons were going to be the last of the true left tackles.
Right.
That would be anywhere worth this pick. It makes a lot of sense. You got the young quarterback. He's dynamic, but you want to make sure they get him some protection, especially with what you see coming in that division at edges. So it makes a world of sense. I don't think there's too much we need to say here.
Not really. I'm surprised they didn't go Simmons, to be honest. I definitely think Simmons is better, but maybe the injury concerned them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Connerly is a guy that can also switch, I think, to the right more. And Washington just got Tunsil, right? So he's definitely going to play on the left this year. Maybe they try Connerly on the right for a year and then move him over. So that makes a lot of sense there. I mean, yeah, Washington, I think that's the best pick for them. Great job. I'm sure they're happy he fell to them. Let's move on to Buffalo. Now we had Maxwell Harrison going to the Vikings at 31, but he goes to the Bills here. I love this pick. I wanted Harrison on the Packers. Obviously, I love the Matthew Golden pick. Didn't necessarily expect him to be there or the Packers to take a wide receiver because it's been 23 years. But I love this pick. I love the Bills draft in general. Not a lot to say. I'll get into the Bills draft a lot more. They went heavy on the defense. I like Maxwell Harrison a lot. So this is a great pick. Let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. Back to Chief Greengrass, getting Jahad Campbell at 31. How do you feel about it?
I had him going 8th originally, so just a little bit off by that. And then for the Eagles traded up 1 so they could get him. Seemed a little interesting. They wanted to make sure that they got their guy, like you said before. They wanted to trade up earlier with the Chargers just to make sure that they got him. Like we said last week, his versatility, he can play any of the 4 linebacker spots. No matter what your scheme, he can plug the run, he can cover the tight end. A great defense. They lost a great linebacker, and they just plug and chug. I think it's a beautiful pick.
It's the Eagles. They get an amazing defensive player from the SEC that fell. What a shocker, right? We were calling it in our mock draft, like who's going to fall to the Eagles. We did a couple, test runs, and we were like, the Eagles are going to get somebody crazy.
It's either going to be a Georgia or Alabama boy.
Yeah, it's always.
Times is what we said.
Honestly, I don't understand trading ahead of the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs are obviously going to go left tackle, right? I mean, did they have any inclination that they'd take Jahad Campbell? I think Howie Roseman just called too many people and they said no. And he's like, I'll just call the Chiefs. So they say yes. I'm tired of getting rejected because there's no reason to trade up in front unless they're worried somebody else was going to call the Chiefs.
Yeah, maybe they're worried someone else would trade in front.
Then I could understand. And the Chiefs are like, yeah, we know you're not taking Josh Simmons. So, and I love this.
It only cost him a 5th round pick, which is going to be practice squad. So.
Yeah, so I guess he's just covering his bases so nobody else calls the Chiefs. I get it, but yeah, I still think he just wanted somebody to say yes because he got a lot of no's that day. All right, so moving on to another pick we got right. So we actually did get one more right. We did have the Chiefs trading up in our draft, but we did have them taking Josh Simmons, who they ultimately end up with. I think the Chiefs have to be ecstatic because this is a top 10 talent apart from the injury. He's going in the top 10. He's probably going before Membu in a lot of people's eyes if he stays healthy. But the Chiefs get him at 32. They get their franchise tackle. Doug Hype, how do you feel about it?
The whole draft, no matter what happens in the world, all of a sudden the meta changes to where everyone's got to get defensive end. Somehow it always benefits the Eagles and the Chiefs. They just seem to happen to get the guys that they need to get. And that's going to help them a lot, I think, to be able to handle like the playoff situations where the quarterback's under fire. And the Chiefs, though, they're doing all right. Didn't they go undefeated in the regular season? So they're a little bit they're a little bit too comfortable. They really need to get their offense and defensive lines going. And who knows, maybe just this one pick could like pop them right back to be equal to the Eagles if they can get production from Mahomes. But I'm not really thinking that's going to happen just with this one pick. But the draft worked out really well for the teams that are just patient and smart and calculating and not jumping around. Like, we had teams like the Falcons and other people jumping around and doing this stuff. Jackson Dart, that none of that might even like work out. We don't know. But for some reason, the Chiefs and the Eagles always seem to have their things work out for them. And now maybe the Packers. Maybe this is a sign, guys.
Yeah,
Golden
maybe
dropping the Packers. Now they're back in the glory days where things just happen for them. They get all the flags called for them. Everything just works out for them, Dave. So they can.
Well, and
you won't make it past the second round of the playoffs. Don't kid yourself.
We'll find out. The Chiefs and the Eagles don't have a lot of holes. They had 2 holes, and they happen to have 2 players to fill those holes. So they did get a little lucky. But when you're a good team that doesn't have a lot of holes, you tend not to make as many rash decisions. And again, maybe the Falcons' decision is rash, right? Maybe the Giants' decision is rash. Maybe being the offseason champs isn't all it's cracked up to be, right? But that was a
shots fired.
Shots fired. But you know what, though? I honestly think a lot of the teams did well, but I'm really excited to see what our scoring system is. Because, guys, we're going to come out with a video here in a couple of weeks. We're going to do a different kind of scoring system. Like I said, we're going to give points per player, and we're going to include all the picks in the top 4 rounds. We're not going to do rounds 5, 6, 7. My personal opinion, if you pick somebody in the 5th, 6th, or 7th and they make the team, you did a good job. If they end up being a great player, you were lucky. Nobody knows what's going to happen to those players. So we're going to concentrate on the first 4 rounds. We're going to give teams points per player. you know, based on talent and how we think they did. And we're going to see which teams ended up with the most points, which teams added the most value. So no grades here. We're going to do it a little bit different. But I got to tell you guys, I had an absolute blast doing this mock draft with you. I had an absolute blast doing the results with you. I'm just going to throw it out. My favorite pick of the draft is obviously Matthew Golden, but my second favorite pick of the draft, I think, is Jacksonville trading up for Travis Hunter. What about you guys? What's your favorite? What's your top 2 or 3 picks? Chief, what do you got?
No, for me, it's the Browns.
Yeah.
Getting the haul that they got, getting that defensive tackle, getting their running back of the future, getting their backup running back, you know, all a part of that, and plus getting that first next year. I think they're setting their, for the first time in a long time, their future is looking good. They don't have their quarterback of the future on their squad yet. I think they're going to get him next year, and they're setting the table pretty nicely.
Yeah, so you love what the Browns did. I love what the Jags did. I also love what the Ravens did. Obviously, you heard that. Hype, what's your, other than Golden, Hype, what's your favorite pick in the draft? What do you think?
My favorite thing about the draft is how everybody shifted to caring about offense and defensive line so much. So I guess it started with like Mason Graham and all these dudes, like the Browns being able to trade back and get Mason Graham and be cool with that, because they're like, it's all about the defensive line. So maybe the Browns really started this off. But all those teams, I'm just happy for, because the Packers got what they want. And you were kind of able, if you were smart in this draft, you could get who you wanted to really get. If you needed an impact player at a position, you could move around to get them. So, but more so, like, there's a lot of picks I didn't like. Like, I did not like Jackson Dart's pick. I don't think he's that good. They probably could have got him in the second round. The Falcons trading out for James Pierce, they could have gotten Mike Green later on. They didn't really need to give up a first rounder. So, like, the guys that, and I normally like trading around the draft, but the guys that stuck to it, like the Packers, the Eagles did trade up one, and the Chiefs, those guys that waited around, the Bengals, Shamar Stewart, I think those guys that just wait for people to fall to them are going to be the ones that benefit. Like the teams like the Cardinals, I don't think Nolan and them are going to be as big of a deal. I think they could have gotten a game-changing cornerback. So that I'm just voting for all the cool people that allowed the Packers to get Matthew Golden.
Okay, so, I do want to say my favorite pick is all the teams that bypassed on Mike Green numerous times.
Fair enough. All right.
And Jadar Stewart too. Okay. But
it's for the off-field stuff. They're like, nope, you're talented, but we want to, you know, image matters. Yeah. And then the Ravens take him because they're the Ravens.
Yeah. Well, yeah, fair enough. I mean, they've done it before. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't go to the Chiefs, to be honest with you, because they prefer those guys. But I think
actually my real favorite one is Mbuka being going to the Tampa Bay, because when he
went to them, I knew we
were getting Golden, and I kind of like Golden better for whatever reason. I think it's the speed.
Well, I think that's also why I love Shamar Stewart to the Bengals, so we didn't have the option to take him. You know what I mean?
It was just, there were so many of these things happening where I just kept thinking like Derek and all the Packer fans that are wanting a playmaker. I'm like, I feel it happening.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the theme of the first round, guys, is that the NFL value for big boys is more than it's ever been. It's more than it's ever been. We got 2 quarterbacks. We got 2 running backs. We got 3 wide receivers in this draft, and a lot more offensive and defensive linemen, a lot more. So like, and edge rushers as well. Like, the NFL has shifted in the first round value, as far as value goes, to the big boys. So Dave, I know you love that. O-line and D-line getting a lot of love in this first round.
I think a big part of that has been the defensive philosophy of them switching over to zone coverage. You know, Patrick Mahomes' first couple of years, there was a lot of man being played, and he is able to light the world on fire with all of those deep routes. So the entire league goes to a cover 3, cover 4 shell. So everyone's going to be playing back. So you got to beat them, got to beat it up close. So like, okay, if you're going to be dropping everyone back, we're just going to punch you in the mouth. We're going to make the run game matter again, because it didn't matter for a long time.
You're absolutely right. The defensive has changed in the last 3 years. Like, there was teams putting up 30 points, no problem, passing, throwing all day. Now teams are sitting back and they're like, we're going to give you 8 or 9 yard passes, and you're going to have to run the ball to get going in this. We're not going to let the quarterback throw it down the field. So yeah, I like I like the adjustment defenses have made. Defense won the Super Bowl last year. I think that everybody knows that. Defense wins the Super Bowl pretty much every year, guys, FYI. So yeah, great job, you guys, on the first foosball mock draft in 2025. Great job on our reaction video. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Thank you for the community. Thank you to Green Bay. You guys want to say any more shout outs before we head out for the day to somebody in Green Bay during the draft?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got a shout out to like Tom Grassi, Andy Agar, He Said TV, Aaron Nagler, Wes Hodquist, and the Green Bay Packers social media team, Caden, Big B. We hung out with him a bunch. We never got to see Matt Ramage, but I kept trying to message him to meet up with him, and all the people, creators, in the Pat Farrington show who we know for a fact that Ziggy is secretly a Packer fan.
It's no secret. We all know. So
yeah, please leave comments. Let us know what we got wrong. Roast us. Just like it and light us on fire, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reactions are good.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching Foosball. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Next time, bring your brats and your skewers. Let's get the hell out of here.